Today, we're going to step away from the silver screen and into this little cafe in India. And we're going to uncover a picture of America that you probably won't find in the movies, all seen through the eyes of one American traveler.
So I want you to picture this. It's a cool evening in Rishikesh, right there by the Ganges River. Our main guy is Ethan. He's a 25-year-old from New York, traveling through India. And he started to notice this funny pattern. People seem way more curious about his country than they are about him. And on this night, all that curiosity kind of boils over into one simple, direct question from a friend. And it's this question that kicks off a whole journey across a continent without anyone ever leaving their chairs.
So Ethan starts by, trying to dismantle this huge Hollywood myth. He explains that America isn't just one place. It's like a bunch of different worlds all living side by side.
He paints this really stark contrast. On one hand, you've got the crazy, nonstop rush of New York City, where time is money is basically the city's motto. But then you just drive a little bit north, and suddenly you're in places like Maine or Vermont, and everything changes. It's all mountains and peace, and people who would rather just read a book by the fire. Two totally different worlds. So the conversation naturally starts to shift, from the speed of life to the sheer size and wildness of the American landscape, a side that, let's be honest, rarely gets the Hollywood spotlight.
He starts talking about the Wild West, but not in the way you see in the old movies with cowboys and outlaws. No, he talks about it as a place that still has this incredible power to just wow you with its raw, natural beauty.
And his perfect example is the Grand Canyon. He describes it as a place that is so gigantic, so immense, that its depth just has this way of humbling you. It makes you realize just how tiny you are in the grand scheme of things. And that raw power is on full display in the national parks. You go to Yellowstone, and you've got geysers literally shooting hot water straight out of the earth. Or you go to Yosemite, and you can walk through forests so dense that grizzly bears and wolves still call it home. This is an America that is truly, truly wild.
But here's the thing. This diversity isn't just in the landscape. It's baked right into the people, the culture, and, as his friends were really curious about, the food.
So Ethan explains this classic idea of the melting pot. The idea that America is this place that's constantly being shaped and reshaped by waves of immigrants, and every group brings their own traditions and their own flavors into the mix. It creates this culture that's just never really finished. And you can literally taste this fusion. Head to Texas, and you'll find that legendary smoky BBQ, which has German and Mexican roots. Go down to New Orleans, and you're tasting French-American history while listening to live jazz music. And out in California, the influence from Latin America and Asia means you can find unbelievable tacos and pho on just about every corner.
So from food, the conversation just kind of naturally drifts to the philosophy that really drives a lot of American society. What is this American dream we always hear about?
Well, he explains the core belief that it doesn't matter where you start from. If you work hard, you can be successful. It's that classic zero-to-hero story that inspires so many people. Of course, he also mentions that for a lot of Americans today, that dream is a hot topic of debate. Is it still as achievable as it once was? But the idea itself, that ideal, is still a really powerful force in the culture.
And this whole way of thinking, it gets woven into the culture from a really young age. For so many, the number 18 is a huge deal because that's the age they're really encouraged to become independent and, start their own journey.
He explains that this whole tradition of leaving home is directly connected to those big national values of freedom and self-reliance. It's a cultural thing that's really aimed at building a strong sense of responsibility, kind of like the first step on that path of making your own way in the world.
So as the conversation starts to wind down, the sun is setting over the Ganges, and Ethan makes sure he offers one final, more balanced perspective.
And he's just really honest with them. He acknowledges that, look, the country is far from perfect, it's got its share of problems, but he really emphasizes what he sees as its defining feature, this relentless spirit of optimism, this drive to always be moving forward. And this spirit, he says, it shows up in big and small ways. It's in the simple act of smiling at a stranger on the street or the way new ideas are welcomed. It's that constant push to create something new for the world, whether that's the next piece of tech out of Silicon Valley or a groundbreaking new play on Broadway.
And by sharing his own story, Ethan really managed to do something powerful. He replaced that one-dimensional Hollywood version of America with something way more real, more complex, and just more human for his friends.
And he doesn't end with some big final statement.
He ends with a warm, personal invitation, a promise that, hey, if you ever come visit, I'll be your guide. I'll show you the real America.
And that really leaves us with something to think about, right? We all hold these simplified, single stories about places we've never been. So the question is, what complex, fascinating realities are we missing out on just beyond that frame?